And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, May 10th. I am the host for today's program again, Paul DeMain. And many of the stories we read here can also be found at our websites, IndianCountryNews.com, and the video at IndianCountryTV.com. And here are some of the news stories for the day. Seneca Nation business has been awarded an $18.5 million contract to design and build a U.S. Army Reserve Center in upstate New York. The Western New York Tribe says this Tuesday that the contract was awarded to SCMC LLC, which opened in 2008. Seneca President Robert Odawi Porter says it's evidence of the Seneca's effort to diversify the tribe's economy and its ability to compete for national contracts. The new center will serve 12 Army Reserve units in the Albany area. The Indian Nation has been taking steps in recent years to broaden its economy beyond the discount cigarette shops and casinos, for which it's best known, as state and federal laws have changes have cut into the tobacco business. Conflicts over land issues in Brazil increased last year, although the number of rural activists killed nationally went down slightly, according to a report released by a watchdog group that tallies land-related threats and murders. The report found that at least 2 ongoing conflicts could turn into violent conflagrations. The Catholic Land Pastoral Survey, released May 7th, showed murders connected to land disputes fell from 34 in 2010 to 29 in 2011. Murder attempts also fell from 55 to 38. In spite of the trend, the number of conflicts nationwide in Brazil rose from 1,186 to 1,363, and the number of death threats grew from 125 to 347. The report was released on the same day a state judge ordered 2 former high-ranking police officials to be jailed for their part in the worst massacre carried out during a land conflict in Brazil. An April 1996 clash that saw police open fire on some 2,000 landless peasants, killing 19 of them. In Brazil, killings over land are common and seldom punished, as powerful landowners clash with farmers and others for control of lucrative farming and logging lands. More than 1,150 rural activists have been slain in Brazil over the past 20 years, but fewer than 100 cases have gone to court since 1988, the Land Pastoral said. Out of those cases, the courts have only found guilty 15 of the men who ordered the killings, and only 1 had been serving time in prison before May 7th. A man responsible for the much publicized 2005 murder of a U.S. nun and environmental activist, Dorothy Stain. The Coeur d'Alene tribe is negotiating with a private landowner to buy land surrounding a historic mission site in northern Idaho. Ed Short, the real estate agent who owns the land next to the old Mission State Park, told the Spokesman Review that he believes the Coeur d'Alene tribe would be the best owner of the property. He listed the property price at $750,000. Ancestors of the tribe and Catholic priests built the mission of the Sacred Heart in Cataldo in the 1850s. Last October, the Coeur d'Alene tribe opened a $3.2 million visitor center at the park. Short's land includes an old cemetery with the graves of Jesuit priests, trails to the Coeur d'Alene River, and 1,300 feet of waterfront. A federal appeals court has upheld the conviction of the Puwaque Pueblo's former lieutenant governor for leaving the scene of an accident in which she hit and killed a pedestrian in the year 2009. A 3-judge panel of the Denver-based 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on May 8th affirmed Linda Diaz's conviction in the death of 31-year-old Philip Espinoza of Chimeo. Diaz struck Espinoza while driving on US 285 in Poake after a night of drinking. In rejecting arguments in her appeal, the court said prosecutors had adequately proved the victim wasn't an American Indian. Diaz could be charged in federal court because the incident occurred on tribal lands and the victim wasn't a Native American. Diaz was sentenced to a year in federal prison and a year of supervised release. Government officials plan to haze a large herd of migrating bison back into Yellowstone National Park this week, an annual event that is again drawing opposition from wildlife advocates and American Indian groups. Montana State veterinarian Marty Zalewski says an estimated 400 bison are now outside the park in the West Yellowstone area. Government workers started driving the animals back into Yellowstone using a helicopter on May 9th. Hundreds of bison leave the park annually during winter to graze at lower elevations. A state and federal agreement calls for the animals to be back in Yellowstone by May 15th to protect cattle from brucellosis. That's a disease allegedly carried by many bison. The Montana-Wyoming Tribal Leader Council says the bison should be allowed to return to the park on their own. A tribe wants a federal judge to force the release of $6.4 million in cash assets that were frozen at the request of a Clinton, Oklahoma bank. Cheyenne Arapaho tribe spokeswoman Lisa Leibel told the Oklahoman that the action by First Bank and Trust Company last month has hobbled the tribe's ability to govern itself and resulted in checks to the contractors and vendors being returned because of insufficient funds. First Bank and Trust officials have pointed to the dispute between Governor Janice Prairie Chief Boswell and one-time Lieutenant Governor Leslie Wandry Harjo over who is the tribe's rightful leader. Bank attorney Scott Meekum says the bank asked the courts to freeze the accounts because officials weren't sure whether Boswell or Harjo were the authorized signatory on the tribe's accounts. The Winnebago tribe has purchased the Okla Downs racetrack property in South Sioux City. The tribe's economic development company, Ho Chunk Inc., announced the purchase this week. Terms were not disclosed. Ho Chunk CEO Lance Morgan says this purchase made sense because two of the tribe's businesses already have operations near the Okla property. HCI Construction has offices in the area, and the Heritage Express runs a convenience store there. The Nebraska The Nebraskan Horsemen's and Protective Association decided to shut down Okla Downs and sell the land because of a dwindling attendance and wagers. Okla had conducted on-track racing just one day a year to satisfy a state law, so it could operate as a year-round simulcasting facility. And Preston Thayer, the recipient of the Spaghetti for Lungs fundraising event on Facebook you might have come across because many of their supporters turned their profile pics upside down for a few days. That was held on the Lakota Ojibwe Reservation today in the Peter Larson room of the tribal office. He says thanks to all his relatives and friends who helped raise over $2,400, and that money was deposited into the LCO Credit Union to be used for medical expenses associated with his cystic fibrosis and the need for a double transplant. He says miigwech for all those people helping out. That's going to be another round of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank you for joining with us, and you come back again soon. Miigwech.